Hi guys, welcome to tutorial number 3 for COSC10 Introduction to Informatics. Today we're going to be playing around with spreadsheets. We're going to be solving some problems, implementing some spreadsheets, and in the end you're actually going to be implementing a couple of simulations as well. We'll get started with exercise number 1. So if we drop down into our exercise here, we've actually got a spreadsheet here for you to download, malcolmsmowing.xlsx, and when you download that one and open up, you'll get the spreadsheet here that I've got open on the left-hand side. So we can see in this spreadsheet we've got some columns of data here. You've got a vehicle ID, the number of kilometres driven, the cost per kilometres, a fixed maintenance cost, and you've got some empty areas here off to the right-hand side and also down the bottom that you've got to populate with some formulas. So we'll jump straight in and we'll calculate the mileage cost, and total cost per kilometre values here. Now if we start off, if we look at the mileage cost over here in step number 2 from the exercise, we've actually given you these formulas here. So we're working in cell E4, so we can see up the top here we've got column E and we're working in row 4, and we're going to make that one equal to the total number of kilometres driven multiplied by the cost per kilometre to give us our mileage cost. Now we can do that by clicking on our cell and then we go up the top here and actually enter in our formula. So in this particular situation we want it to be equal to the total kilometres driven, so we can select cell B4 multiplied by the cost per kilometre, and we'll select cell C4. Now you can see that that cell's immediately been populated with that formula and it's given us those two cells multiplied together for the mileage cost. Now once we've got our formula in the top cell, there's no need to manually enter that for each cell down the page. We can use this little square in the corner here called the fill handle to actually fill that formula down through our spreadsheet. Now, in this formula, we haven't used the $ to anchor any of the dependent cells. So when we use that fill handle, all of those cell references are going to be updated down through our formula. So if I just hit the escape key to quit out of the formula entry menu there, if we click on that fill handle and drag it down the spreadsheet, you can see if we go down through that it's actually updated all of our cell references. This one's been updated to cells B6 and C6. So if I go to our formulas menu here, I can trace the dependence on, the precedence on that one, the precedence on that, and you can see that it's actually updated that cell to use those formulas and so on down the spreadsheet. So you can see that using that fill handle automatically fills those things out for us down the spreadsheet. Similarly, we can go through and calculate the total cost. So to get our total cost, we're actually adding the maintenance cost to the mileage cost that we just calculated. You can see again we've populated our cell with a value that's calculated from those ones, and we can fill that down the spreadsheet using our fill handle. So the real power of spreadsheets is that if we change any of the inputs, those values will be updated in the formulas through the spreadsheet there. So we made an adjustment to the kilometres driven in the first row of data, and you can see that that change has been proliferated through both of the calculated values that we just had there. So I'll undo that and move back to the original value. And in the final cell, we're working out the cost per kilometre, so we're dividing cell F4 by the total number of kilometres driven, so that's cell B4. So again, we go through, we select our total cost, and we divide that by the total number of kilometres driven, which gives us our cost per kilometre. Once again, because we're not anchoring any of our formulas, we can fill that one down. So you can see there that we've calculated some values. At the moment it looks a little bit ungainly here at the end because we've got lots of decimal places, but we'll come back to that later on. So now we're actually going to look and calculate some of the totals for kilometres driven, the maintenance cost, and also the mileage cost and the total cost in row 13. So row 13 is this aptly named totals row, and we can go through and actually use the sum formula, the sum function rather, to add up all of our rows. So if we go through here and we use our sum formula, we can specify a range of cells that go into that formula that'll be added up, that sum operation will be performed across. If we grab the top row there and click and drag down to the bottom one, and then close off a formula using the close bracket, you can see that we immediately get the sum or the total of that column. Now, if we wanted to go through and do this manually, we could actually go through and go cell 1 plus cell 2 plus cell 3 and so on down the spreadsheet, and it'll actually yield the same result, but it's a little bit clunky, it's a bit manual in the approach, and it does introduce the opportunity to make errors, as you just saw there where I entered the incorrect value. So if we go down and do that, you will see that it will, yes, we'll accept that autocorrect. It will actually add that up. So you can see that I've added up all of the cells down into that column there. But if we go back, we can make that a lot nicer by actually using our sum operation. So if we go back, we just go use our sum operation in there, we can just add them all up. And it'll automatically select that range. We close the function, so we have open brackets and closed brackets around the range that we use, and we'll fix that one up. We'll do the same again here for mileage cost. Oops, I've gone through and selected the wrong thing there. And then we select our range. And you can see there we've got our opening and closing brackets around our range that we've automatically selected by clicking and dragging on the sheet. We just need to get one more total here, so we need to calculate a total cost for the total cost in row 13 as well. So again, use our sum formula. Sum function rather. It's the whole thing is the formula. That particular part is a function. Fill that one down, and we've got our totals there. So we can actually copy the formula from G12 also down into G13 as well if we wanted to do it that way. But we've got our formulas there. We don't need a total one for the total cost per kilometre because it doesn't make much sense. So now we need to go and actually calculate some of the values down below here. So you can see we've got some rows of data labelled highest, lowest, and average. Now, in each of these columns, we're going to get the highest, lowest, and average value from the data sets within those columns. So you see for this particular example here, we're going to get the highest kilometres driven, the lowest kilometres driven, and the average kilometres driven. And to do this, we're going to be using the max, min, and average functions. Now these haven't actually been introduced in the lectures yet. They'll be introduced in lecture number 7, but we can quickly go through and I'll introduce them here for you. So to get the highest number from a selection from a set of cells, we actually use the max function. So we type in max here, and just like the sum function that we saw before, we allocate a range of cells for that one. We drop that in, and that'll quickly populate that one out. Now we can just go along here and actually fill that right the way along, and it will actually fill out all of those values there. So you can see that that has actually updated all of those cell references for us there by using that fill handle right the way across. We can perform a similar operation here using the min function. So the min function, and again, we select our range of cells across here, and we fill across. So we've found the maximum, the minimum, and the final one we've got to find is the average. Now, average actually isn't a shorter version. We have to actually type the full word average to get the function that we want. So average, I think I spelled it correctly, and we select our range and hit enter, and we get the average. And again, fill that one across our page by grabbing hold of the fill panel, the fill handle on the corner of the cell, and it'll be filled across. So now we have all of our cells in our spreadsheet, in our starting spreadsheet, all filled out as required. So now it's time to go and actually do some styling on this. Now in COSC10, most of the time we're more concerned with the values in the cell than the styling, but we still want to have everything so it looks nice and neat. And the easiest way to do this is to actually go and select a theme. So Microsoft Excel provides a range of themes. In this particular exercise, I want you to select the Foundry theme. So if you go to this Themes button on the Mac, it appears up in the top right-hand corner. In Windows, it'll be on the left-hand side, but can be found up on the ribbon in the Home tab, and we can select the Foundry theme. And if we apply that through our spreadsheet, you can see that it updates the fonts and some of the colours. Now, in later versions of Microsoft Office, so from Microsoft Office 2013 onwards, you won't actually find the Foundry theme, so you can just select another theme there. I'm not particularly phased with which one you use, just make sure you select one for the entire sheet. So once you've got the theme applied, now we need to go and make use of it. Now we've got this nice heading and subheading, or title and subheading up the top. So we're going to apply the title style to this top heading. We do that by selecting the heading cell here, the Malcolm's Mowing cell, and then we go to this styles drop down that appears up the top here in the ribbon, and we can select the title style. Likewise, we can go to the next cell down, so we can actually select one of the headings. In this situation, I'm going to keep things simple, and I just want to set a font size of 16 to that one. So that's given us a title, a subheading with correct font size. We can also put a dark background on that one, so the next step there is to change the background, and we do that by going to Format Cells. So we right-click to get this nice menu, so we select both cells down the page, right-click, and go to Format Cells. And that will give us this nice menu here, and we can actually go, and if you click through the tabs that are listed at the top here, we can actually go to this Fill tab, and we can select the background color to be this darker red color. I'm not really phased with what actual dark red you select. You can go and apply that. It's actually quite hard to read the top bit of that, so I might actually go and change that to a slightly lighter red. I'll leave that up to your judgment, but you can go and select an appropriate backfill for that. It's a little bit easier to see there now. So once we move through, now we've got that style applied, we can actually go and start formatting the content of our cells. Now if we select cells C4, so we start at C4 and move through to G4, which is all the way across here, we want to apply the accounting number format to that one. And we want it to have 2 decimal places and the dollar signs fixed to the left-hand side. So if we select all of those cells, as I showed there before, and go up the top here, we can actually select from this drop-down the accounting data type, and that will actually format everything as we want. So we've got our dollar signs here fixed to the left-hand side. We've got the 2 decimal places. So all of that's just been done automatically for us. For cells C5 through to G12, so that's all of these cells here, we want to apply the comma format. Now the comma format means that every 3 significant figures on the left-hand side of the decimal point will actually have a comma to separate them. So if we do that, you can see that we actually get this nice comma format. So you can see, for example, in cell E5 here, where we've got 4 significant figures to the left of the decimal point, we've actually had this comma placed in there. So that's just to make things a little bit more readable. And we do that to our currency values, just so they're a little bit more user-friendly to read there. We haven't done anything with our column B over here. Next step, however, comma B, cells B4 to B16, we're actually going to apply that same comma format. So again, we go back up here on the ribbon to the format section, the format pane, and we click the comma button, and we'll immediately get that comma format placed on there as well. For cells C14, so if we jump to C14, which is this fella here, through to G16, which is all the way down here, so we click and select all the way through, we're going to apply our currency style again. So we go up to our menu bar here and we select currency. You can see straight away that it's applied our currency. We've got our dollar signs appearing there. Because we're using the currency one, the dollar sign is right next to the actual dollar amount rather than being spaced out, as we saw with the accounting format. So it's slightly different. With that one there. Now, if we wanted to go and play around with floating dollar signs, we can actually format that. We could actually just assign the accounting format as well. So if you want the dollar signs to float off to the side, we can put the accounting format in there as well. So it doesn't really matter. We can go either way with that one. I'm going to change it back to currency though, because they're actually totals and individually significant numbers. I like to have the dollar signs next to them. The final step in this exercise is to apply some conditional formatting. So what we mean by conditional formatting is that if the value in the cell meets some particular condition, we want to highlight it a particular color. And we do that, so we're going to do that to column G here, which is our total cost per kilometer row. And we want to put the condition on that any number in there, any value, any cell that has a value greater than 0.8, we want it to have a red or a rose background. So we do that by selecting our cells here, and then we go up to the ribbon and you'll find this little drop down menu labeled conditional formatting. And when you click that one and open it up, it'll have a range of options here. And if we go to the highlight cells rules, which is the first one, there's a number of rules in here that we can apply. Now we're interested in applying the greater than rule. When we click the greater than rule, we'll get this little dialog pop up. And in here we can say that we want the cell value greater than from these drop downs, so it's already in there for us. And we just enter in 0.8. and it'll be applied to all of those selected cells. So you can see immediately that they've been highlighted. Now, if we go and actually alter this a little bit, so if we go and update some data here, so if we make this one, if we update this data value here, you can see that immediately the cost per kilometre has dropped below 0.8, so it's no longer highlighted. So the highlighting is done automatically and dynamically for us. So if any values are updated in our spreadsheet, the highlighting will be updated, and it makes it all automatic, so we don't need to worry about that. So remember, the key overriding principle in a spreadsheet is to automate as much as possible. So that covers off on exercise number 1. So that's just to give you a bit of a feel for how to use Microsoft Excel or your chosen spreadsheet program and how to enter in values and formulas into the cells. If you have any questions about this one, please let me know.